Today I'm going to share our minimalist Montessori-inspired playroom and explain a little about why we chose this. This is not an extravagant room by any means. I'm still in the process of gathering and sorting things the way that I want. But it has been really wonderful to have a nice little space that's clean and orderly, that is focused on sensory and open-ended play. So the Montessori method, developed by Dr. Maria Montessori, is a child-centered educational approach based on her scientific observations of children from birth to adulthood. Dr. Montessori's method has been time-tested with over 100 years of success in diverse cultures throughout the world. It's the view of the child as one who is naturally eager for knowledge and capable of initiating learning in a supportive, thoughtfully prepared learning environment. It's an approach that values the human spirit and the development of the whole child, physical, social, emotional, and cognitive. There's a lot of amazing things to say about this method, but today I'm just focusing on the toy playroom aspect of it. She believed that play spaces should be kept attractive and orderly, and that too many toys is actually developmentally inappropriate. One of the reasons being that while maybe the child is able to help with tidying up a little, the bulk of the organizing and tidying duties rests on the caregiver. Too many toys is actually a distraction for kids. It's overwhelming, overstimulating, and most toys are not skill building, despite all the claims that the toy boxes may make. The flashing lights and the colorful buttons tell the child exactly how to play with the toy, so they are less likely to use it in a more imaginative way. They're so busy being entertained by the toy that they lack the initiation to want to go deep and creative play with it, and they tend to get bored really easily. They move from thing to thing, overwhelmed with all the choices, whereas with open-ended toys, they're able to play with the same toy many different ways and can really get creative with it. And this is incredible for the brain, as the brain is doing so much building during the early years. A lot of open-ended toys we have are great for sensory development. Sensory play is what I'm focusing on here, and it's a big part of the Montessori method. Sensory play is absolutely crucial for their brain development. I recently listened to this amazing neurologist on a podcast, and she shared why it's so important not to push information on small children and why sensory stimulation is the key to building the brain. So from birth, a child is building this cognitive network. A baby is born with billions of neurons just kind of rolling around, unorganized. So as the child takes in different kinds of sensory stimulation, those neurons turn into synapses, and they're forming this cognitive network that they will have for the rest of their life. So when we push all of this information on them so early, the brain sort of goes, okay, we're not building right now, we are processing information. So the building gets put on hold as the child's brain struggles to take in all of the information. And the other thing that's happening while these synapses are being formed is that the brain is also culling away cells that aren't being used or stimulated. And that pruning continues through puberty. The act of squishing your toes in mud, for example, actually stimulates the part of the brain that does calculus. So the brain needs that type of sensory stimulation to build that cognitive network. And it used to come naturally, that kids would be outside playing and doing all sorts of sensory play. But now, as much as I'd like to spend all our time outside, we don't. So we sort of have to provide those sensory experiences for them in our home, where we spend the most time. Anyway, I'm going to show you our little space, and these are not all of his toys. There are other things in different rooms of the house. This room is actually part of our bedroom. It used to be sort of a nursery and has evolved into this. Here's the main shelf, and everything has a place. When he's done with something, he puts it back before moving on to the next thing, or ideally he puts it back, and it doesn't always happen. These are our routine cards, and we don't use these every day. I've found that my 3-year-old is a little young for this specific of a routine, so I'm probably going to mess with it a little and make it more broad so that he can actually follow it. But it's fun to do it together in the morning, and it helps him know what to expect. Up here are just some rocks and shells, little animals. He uses these for so many things. The play possibilities are endless. Love this squirrel strategy game for little ones. He's got some wooden beads and string. Great cheap activity for fine motor skills. Stamps. These letter stamps are also really fun to use on Play-Doh. He loves these letter boards. Highly recommend these. Some wooden building stuff. A register. He plays cafe almost every day. And these pattern tiles are so much fun. There's a bunch of different designs, and the tiles are also fun to play with separately. Some more animals. I can't remember what this is called. And these are carved heirloom toys, which I just love so much. Ideally, we'd love to have only quality, ethical, open-ended toys because they last forever. They're just quality. He's got some trains and cleaning stuff, his bathrobe, binoculars, and library bag on these hooks. This is a sensory bin I made using cheap dried beans and just stuck a bunch of scoopers and things in here. Here's some wall shelves that are his height. Some of our favorite Usborne books displayed here. Most of our books are in his bedroom. His money jar, which he told us is for helping us to save by our home on wheels. So cute. Some laminated flashcards, which are fun, and they're wipe clean, so I also let him draw on them with dry erase markers. These are part of our peaceful preschool curriculum, which I'll mention again in a minute. And a little watercolor pad that I made him. We've got some Play-Doh in here. Here are all of his clothes, minus the ones he's wearing and whatever's in the hamper. Socks and underwear are in one basket, pants in another. He only has a few of each thing per season. If you're wondering why all his clothes are in here, this used to be a nursery and I just never moved it. I lowered the shelf so he could reach. It's nice to be able to get all dressed here in the morning together. His bedroom's pretty empty, it's just for sleeping. It has no windows outside, so it's pretty dark, and I really wanted the playroom to have lots of natural light. Here's the peaceful preschool curriculum I was talking about. We follow it loosely, very loosely. Some art stuff, pads and paper, and he can grab this stuff whenever he wants. So that's it. It's nothing extraordinary, but I love keeping things extra simple. We don't really have very many rules about what he can or cannot play with. He always asks first if he sees an item he wants to play with. I always say yes, unless it's something that could be dangerous. We don't have very many things lying around, so it's not like he just goes around grabbing our things. He asked me if he could take the books off this little shelf or stand here and use it. He gets really creative with the things he plays with, and I would say he plays with random objects just as much as he plays with his toys or belongings. A lot of the time I can just sit here and read while the boys play. It wasn't always like that since he was a baby. I thought I had to entertain him 24/7. So it wasn't until he was maybe 2 that I found out that was actually hindering to his development. So I worked to get him weaned off needing someone to play with him, and now he does really well playing independently. I obviously still play with him, but I try to let him lead as much as I can.